Still, I hope to see you both again. Before the end begins.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. It's the most wonderful time again, folks. Adjacent to the usual leak season, we have almost every BlizzCon. Everyone is trying to guess what our next destination will be. Everyone has their own way of being creative, whether it's through vague forum posts on MMO Champion, or grainy photos of ghosts invading Stormwind Harbor and Sylvanas screaming, "The true battle for Azeroth is here." Ugh. I maintain a level of confidence to guess based on the information we already have from Gamescom, dev interviews, in-game hints, and of course, from the campaign itself. Surprisingly, there is a lot more to work off of now than before. And looking back, one of the hints we have gotten as to where we would be going is from the lore walking quests, and also the ritual site quest lines. An ethereal quest line in 11.1.7, an elven one in 11.2.7, and now with 12.07, we're getting one with the Loas and also Thrall. Thank God. But for the most part, we've been going in blind for the majority of Midnight. I have some ideas about some potential locations we could see in this expansion, some with reasonable possibility, and others with minor doubt. So, without further delay, let's dive into what I think is next for Midnight. We're headed to Atal'Utek. Alright, video's over. VIA! No, I wouldn't fake you out like that. We know this is basically where we're headed next in 12.1. This is the very same island that we've been teased over and over, shrouded in a coil-like mists, and ultimately the one where Zul'jan would reflect upon from afar. It is the one where we will be headed in 12.1. As far as I know, it's called the Curse of Atal'Utek. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it'll be called. Despite being present in the game, it constantly prevents us from entering, for now at least. Whatever the fog is protecting is probably the one thing we heroes aren't ready to face, just yet. So that's where we will finally take the fight to, Atal'Utek, rumored to hide either the corpse of the fallen Cathrexi general, Kha'Zix, or a Loa we have yet to encounter. Maybe for the interest of some, or many, a snake Loa. Which reminds me, whatever happened to the giant-ass snake in Gundrak? Was that ever going to be a relevant plot point, or was that just decoration for lore enthusiasts like myself to ponder over for over 19 years? Ah, it's always 19 years, isn't it? Anyways, spoilers ahead for 12.07, you know what to do. Here's the time code for when to skip. Yeah. This intensive and deceptive Loa, Zul'jan seems to want to weaponize the Loa of Zul'jan and war with the rest of the Eastern Kingdoms to get their lands back. Understandable. I predict that while Zul'jan's motives will cause some harm, not all of them are exactly his, and it will result in Zul'jarra saving the only brother and family that she has left in this world, and stopping Malakras, who is once again trying to influence the Amani in, well, Malakras fashion. And I assume we'll be seeing several Loa and other troll tribes coming in to remedy this matter. The best case scenario for this narrative direction is for Zul'jan to realize that Malakras is full of it, and ultimately turning on him before Malakras harms his sister and the Amani further. And I think the Kha'Zix will either reawaken and be a secondary problem for us, or be used to feed yet another void entity or cult leader. Hey, maybe that Snek isn't all that evil after all, and it is challenging this Cathraxi, and it is the sole thing keeping that Cathraxi from being unleashed. Who knows? As for Zul'jan, it pretty much bears repeating, and it's been a recurring theme on the channel, but...
He must live!
Hopium is going strong, and I'm not going down without a fight. If there's one thing I need out of Midnight, it's Zul'jan surviving. And maybe a Zul'jan cameo or two. I really don't want to have to make another video on this, but... Actually, wait, I do. It's how I make my income. Alright, I can't believe we're talking about this, but it has to be said, we still need to contend with the Red Dawn. Yep, we're going down that road. The Red Dawn was introduced to us in various conversations among the people of Stromgarde. One such individual played an integral role, particularly Meryn Trollbane, niece of Danath Trollbane, and while we were able to thwart her human-led group of Strom, Scarlet, Defias Brotherhood, and the Syndicate, she and her followers ultimately fled from the Highlands, seemingly. That whole storyline could have ended in one of WoW's bloodiest confrontations, but instead, we got this.
No! Do not make her a martyr.
Yep, that. Admittedly, her survival was always interesting to me and would lead to problems for us down the road for later, either in recruiting other disgruntled human kingdoms into her faction, such as Ashvin's Corporation, followers of Dalen, and pulling straws here, perhaps the Gilnean Kingdom, specifically those who feel spurned after letting the Forsaken have their cake and eat it too. And hey, maybe even like a lieutenant or a follower of Garithos from back in the day still up and running somewhere, and they could be a part of the Red Dawn. It's not like Garithos gets many mentions anyways in Warcraft. One of the biggest paths I see for the Red Dawn, beyond recruiting more to their cause, is gaining ground in the kingdoms of Atal'Utek, which has become seemingly abandoned lands, outside of course the orcs and of course the dwarves who live there. This unless Meryn's second command, Veronica Niles, takes the reins and seizes the land for the Red Dawn. In this scenario, we once again meet with the members of the Red Dawn, arriving in droves to retake Alterac for the humans, striking down any and all Stormpike dwarves and Frostwolves who call that realm their home, which could result in quite the possibly the biggest tragic end of all time recently for Drekthar, leader of the Frostwolves, which would put Thrall in a position to strike back in anger and in grief, as Drekthar was one of his mentors and inspiration for his shamanistic roots. He's one of the very few people that Thrall has to look up to who was a mentor that's left, really. Alternatively, we could see Meryn attempting to establish her own unity and alliance with the Arathi Empire, and by extension, their Emperor, leading to a plethora of issues and problems for us. If this ambiguous emperor has it out for us, and has someone as bigoted and discriminatory as Meryn feeding them lies, I'd imagine that would lead us to a very bloody confrontation down the road. Even if the last story beat left us fatigued and a little bit disappointed, the Red Dawn has a very interesting narrative going forward. The narrative being set up gives us another threat to contend with, even if that threat isn't barefoot and, well, horny for the Void. Now, we've discussed at great lengths about the Void in the past, especially during the World Soul Saga, but one of the biggest constants that has remained is the antithesis, the Light. Their presence, especially in Midnight, has been very heavy. Sure, we've known them to be a source of warmth and comfort, but make no mistake, there are individuals completely radicalized by the notion that the light is the end-all be-all in this cosmic war, and one of them would determine the fate of our world soul. And it's not just the light and void, but its order, arcane, death. Everyone has a role to play in this chess game, unless you're the jailer, thinking that you're playing the ultimate game of chess and winning, when in reality you're just playing checkers and losing horribly. But I digress. We should expect no different from the Lights, as we've already seen their fanatical viewpoints often clash with our very own beliefs or spur-of-the-moment choices made, as could be seen recently with the Lightbound and Rothraxion. It has even infused the flora and fauna and developed into the Light Bloom, and quite frankly, that was never our battle to begin with, but it serves as a minor distraction, albeit a destructive one if left unchecked. With these examples in mind, we'll potentially see the Light make its stand as it tries to clash with us to claim Azeroth, the World Soul, in a way that would not let the Void corrupt or devour it, even if it means destroying civilizations or whole cities just to stop Xal'atath from achieving her end goal, which is what Rothraxion tried to do in the end. I have teased the idea and the notion that a massive army of light composed of those from the Arathi Empire, Lothraxion possibly returning, Xe'ra, or quite possibly Yarel and her Lightbound forces would be a force to contend with as we rally against the Void. And if it ends up happening in the World Core or someplace else, that would be a battle for the books, for sure. Another pawn on this chessboard that we have seen, especially quite recently, is the Naga Empire, specifically Queen Azshara's Naga Empire. Anyone who has played WoW since the very beginning would recognize that name and know that she has been one of the most consistent threats to Azeroth for a while, even after being thwarted many times in her long life. And that same song and dance that we would see, she would come back, more powerful and scarier than ever. We've seen her return with the Naga after losing her kingdoms during the War of the Ancients. Even after her imprisonment at the tentacles of N'Zoth, we would see her retreat for a greater seat of power, wherever that may be. Quite foreboding and quite mysterious. While the defeat would become a constant, so would survival. The Naga still retained a queen, a leader, even after imprisoned. Her escape also gave us a warning that she was done being a servant shackled by gods. No longer to Sargeras, no longer the old gods. And finally, it would seem like the Naga are preparing for her return after all these years, and likely her final ascension, as they've been gathering up a large portion of the arcane for quite some time now on Azeroth, even being encouraged by Azshara's own battle maiden and champion from Majir, Nar'jira. What for, we're unsure, but it does seem like it has either something to do with bringing Azshara back to Azeroth, or it's a feast for when Azshara makes her return in a new godlike form. It's always been a matter of not if Azshara will return, but when. And I think Azshara's return is about to reach its peak at long last, and that's a massive problem for us. Especially if she's working alongside the Harbinger or working against said Harbinger. That's a true rival for Xal'atath, for real. Lastly, we've been teased about this, and I think we have a very good idea to where we'll be going in the last and final patch of Midnight, the World Core. Such a place has been teased to us before in the War Within, where it would seem the Titans had taken the very world soul of Azeroth and contained it. A prison that would act as a heavy influence to warp the planet to act and be like a Titan. Evidently, it's probably what shapes them into that Titan form that we've seen time over and over now. Little fun fact, but have you ever noticed how the prisons for the Incarnates are exactly the same as the logo for the Last Titan? We saw Xal'atath and her devouring host use the Sunwell as a quick way to access the World Core, going underground. Not a lot of folks noticed it at first, but through a stay a while and listen moment, we can understand now that this was a play to get what she wants. Naturally. And not only do we find the devouring host there, but we also know that Turali and Illyria are there too, after falling from the Void Spire. So we'll probably be seeing those two again in the deep depths of Azeroth's prison, as well as the many members of the Light Vanguard too. This presents a case to where we would have to lead a whole army down to the World Core And as much as I would love to see Thrall and Anduin leading their respective factions to a glorious battle, the likelihood is that we'll maybe see Eretor, much to my chagrin, alongside various other Elven and Troll leaders, Harenir and Earthen, making their way to the battle for Azeroth's soul. But I'll forever hold on to the hopium that Thrall and Anduin might show up and, you know, lead the charge with their respective factions. This is probably where we'll even get to see the hinted Renalash take place in an epic final clash between the Light and the Void. Perhaps this is what Xal'atath had been wagering on to break Azeroth from her shackles, provided our conflicts with one another is what seemingly empowers Xal'atath each and every time. But this is Xal'atath's moment. Xal'atath's f***ing destiny. This'll be the exact time where Xal'atath, after her
for 100,000 years
of waiting, where Xal'atath will take Azeroth from the Titan's grip and get her win. Which either means devouring Azeroth, corrupting Azeroth, or becoming Azeroth in some kind of switcheroo. It's very obvious that Xal'atath is going to win this fight, or at the very least take Azeroth with her if things get pretty grim. Or maybe we take Azeroth out, or the Light does. Hard to say. But I think we're gonna lose Azeroth in some fashion and some way, and that'll result in the Titan's return. And of course, Rudikron's revenge to truly unfold. We are truly headed for the apocalypse as a dark third act looms on the horizon. Alright, that's gonna do for now. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion about some of the more prominent threats to contend with, and what we'll be seeing in the future, but what about you guys? Where do you think we'll be headed in the future? Tell me your thoughts on what you think is about to happen down below. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I've been Chronos, your lovely time demigod and host. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos like this one in the future. Be sure to join the Discord for more discussions with myself and the community, and as always, a special thanks to the patrons and YouTube community members to keep this channel alive and well. But until next time, my friends, bye!